Hello and welcome to How to Align Your Training Programs with the Needs of a Virtual Workforce, sponsored by Matrix, uh, by Cipher Learning. With us today, we have two presenters, Alexia Sanchez and Raquel Williams-Jones. Alexia is an ed tech specialist and instructional designer with years of prior experience as a chief learning officer. She takes pride in assisting clients with their onboarding process and is passionate about education transformation to improve employee achievement. Raquel is president and CEO of Can I Live Inc. Raquel is an author, motivational speaker, a play and short film writer, and business thought leader. She holds a master's degree in public administration, a bachelor's degree in economics, politics, and law, as well as an associate's degree in criminal justice with an emphasis in juvenile delinquency. She has led and organized 10 cities, volunteered on civic boards, chaired a housing authority, and influenced policy through various commission appointments. So let's please welcome Alexia and Raquel to the session. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand it over to them. Enjoy your session.
Thank you very much, Melissa. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Good morning, everyone.
Hi, Raquel. Thank you very much for joining me today. Welcome, everyone, to the How to Align Your Training Programs with the Needs of a Virtual Workforce. I'm Alexis Sanchez, and I'm the EdTech Director for US and Canada for Cipher Learning. And what my unit does is that we help and assist our clients throughout their onboarding process. We assist with consultation services, migration projects, and as well we deliver training. And today I have invited Raquel Williams-Jones, who is the CEO for Can I Live, to join me today because she has built out quite successful training programs for her company. And Raquel, we were mentioning this the other day, and I think that it'd be great if you could also let them know what you have, what you were saying, that how not it's not something that it is necessary for you to have like a background
Yeah,
as a trainer, you know?
absolutely. And so for all of you guys, maybe there's a lot of academia on the phone on this webinar, but just rest assured that I came onto the Matrix platform with zero experience. I'm not an educator by trade where, in the college classroom, I don't build LMS, I don't do instructional design, but I do have insight on my clients that I serve. And so just this system allowed me to jump in, and it was intuitive, it was friendly, and I was not intimidated. The information felt free. The navigations were just easy to navigate. And so most people think, like I have all of this experience building LMS, and I don't. This is actually my first that I've ever done. So you can do it too.
Thank you very much, Raquel. And yes, that is exactly correct. I mean, as the platform, what we deliver, it's not only just a product that you will have to figure it out, because we will be assisting you all along the way. And what we also try to do is always try to customize it further. We need to consider your needs as a company, as a client. And that takes me over here to the next slide, and that is also changing the mindset, changing the way that we have been thinking about training and development. I mean, let's just go back a little bit into 1 year ago, March 2020, when we had all of the COVID pandemic that we were facing, and suddenly, just like it was a night over change, when we had to move from face-to-face meetings all the way to working remotely. It wasn't basically something that we wanted to do. It was something that it became a necessity, working as a in a remote form. And many companies had to adapt to those new needs, and they had contingency plans. They had to change so many things. They had to adapt. Many companies weren't really ready for this shift. So it was very tough for some companies. Other companies, they thought they already had this work frame, However, it wasn't really useful or successful when they had to do basically 100% virtual workforce model. So today we will be talking about how this has changed and how you can adapt this into your training programs, because we have moved from a workplace to basically having a virtual workforce, and we are not longer going to be talking about just a workplace. We also have to enhance all of our learners, all of our employees, and really help them uh, get and adapt to this new change that we are facing. And you can even think about this, like, for example, Slack, Fishbowl, MS Teams, Zoom. All of these tools became a necessity as well for many companies. And the reason behind that is that, for example, Zoom came and took place of in-person meetings and trainings, and there were so many users trying to find information and to learn through social tools such as Slack and MS Teams and Fishbowl. So it was a big change for many companies. For all of us, we had to suddenly move into other tools, look for many other items that we could utilize in order for us to be more productive. It was a big change. And we also faced some barriers in here, that in this part, I would like to invite you to start thinking about those barriers as areas of opportunities, because those areas of opportunities weigh even more than just the challenges or those barriers. And I mean, we all face them. And for example, many employees said that they couldn't find the content that they needed ASAP in that moment, or it wasn't accessible through their devices. So what they did is that they moved back into social learning. They moved on directly to a Slack and MS Teams and as well Zoom, so that they could ask their colleagues. We also faced that basically sometimes our content wasn't really effective because we saw that many people have many different learning styles, and as well the access to technology. And in this part, we can really change all of this into areas of opportunity. Raquel, in this part, I'd like to ask you, what were these barriers that you were facing?
So, in our world, we're here in DC. A lot of our students did not have the access to the technology. They never really came in contact with a LMS. So that was, because usually learning management systems are equated with universities, post-secondary universities. So that was a barrier for us, knowing that those learning styles were definitely different. Um, let's see, the different types of assessments. So we knew that we had to do that upfront. We needed to assess our students upfront to see if they were even capable or had the capacity to manage or navigate. And that could be, do you have access to a laptop or computer? The one thing that we found is through this system, our students were able to navigate it off their smartphone. And we thought, and we teach a business course, and I thought, there's no way you're not going to do this on your cell phone. Um, but these students are amazing, and they did that. So yeah, while these were also challenges, there were still opportunities that the students used to overcome, like, to overcome these obstacles. So
Yes, and I think that is correct, because I mean, whenever you enhance as a company the access to either the right technologies, that you are giving them the opportunity not only just to access the other laptops or their PCs, but also allowing them to access content through their mobile devices, that allows them also to have accessible information. And as well with the content, whenever you have that well organized or have it tagged so that it is just in time content, that's also amazing, because people need information right now, ASAP. all of your employees, they need to find answers to their questions. And the best way to do it is by doing it, by allowing them to have access to all of this, and also considering your learners, also taking into consideration their needs as well. So, which also takes me into the next slide that we have over here. And I'm going to go back a little bit into the part of the virtual and hybrid models. You know how this change, all of this pandemic is has brought some changes that are here to stay. We're not longer going to go back. We're not going to be the same as we were. And this is like, for example, I was reading a Hubstaff survey that said like that 58% of the companies are going to now work on hybrid models. You know, you can have your satellite offices. You can do face-to-face meetings in the office. You can as well do home office. And that is having a flexible workforce that you are going to allow users to have, and your employees to have that flexibility for so that they can choose where they want to work, what suits best for them. And also was reading that it is only the 15% of the companies that are going to go back to full-time office, you know? So it's the percentage is really low. And that means that there were some things that we have already learned from all of this COVID pandemic, from working remotely, and that we will still be working on those. For example, also there's I believe that it is Twitter and Apple who are going to permanently be working remotely also, because they have also found that aside from all of these barriers that they encountered at first, they also found that productivity of their employees raised up to 20%. And that employees were also happy because they didn't have the need to move on into the office. They didn't have to drive and lose 1 hour every day or 2 hours every day. And that they were also gaining staff that were really satisfied working from home, because they are really utilizing those times. They are taking advantage of those. So aside from having these challenges, remote working and hybrid learning also boost productivity as well. So yes, virtual and hybrid workforce model are here to stay. It is a thing that it is going to change forever in the training and development environment. And we need to do a transition. I mean, we really need to stop thinking only on current needs that we have as companies. When everything came with a pandemic, everyone adapted for those current conditions. However, if we are going to switch and we are going to now be more open to having different workforce models, we will need to make it sustainable. And the way to make it sustainable is not only just considering past or current conditions, but also we need to focus on future needs. Future needs, and these future needs, the only way that we will get to know them is by actually listening to our learners, seeing what they are more interested on, what they're leaning towards, because also our companies and our job descriptions are going to change. We're also changing to that part. So to do this, the best way to do this change and to prepare for a future ready workforce is to change our mindset. Up to now, all of our training programs have been managed in a way that we were doing it revolving around an organization. The organization said, okay, the company needs this, the company needs that. This is going to be the way that it is going to be, and it is going to be a standardized learning for all of my different employees. But now we need to move from that, and we need to center the learner. We need to focus also on what they need, what are their interests, to make it really effective. Because At the end of the day, what we all want as learning professionals is we're looking for learning effectiveness. And there is no other way to get that learning effectiveness if we don't take into consideration our learners, because what we want to do is to enhance our workforce's capability. And in order for us to enhance those capabilities of our workforce, we need also to help our learners' skills. It's not only what the company needs, but also how we can empower our learners. And we need to revolve around the learners so that we can make it, we can have agile teams. We can make it flexible so that they can adapt to all of the changes that are going to becoming and that we are going to see in the near future. So also it's giving them content. Yes, it's not just breaking away from the organization needs, but we have to give them the content in a timeline context. We also need to consider all of those preferences. And who better to talk more about this learner-centered journey than Raquel. I mean, you have done an amazing job considering all of your learners' needs. And if you can kindly let us know what are some ideas or how did you get to this point?
So we knew, because we taught our business incubator class face to face, we actually had a hybrid model at that time. And our online course was for those who needed childcare and couldn't get to class, or who didn't have transportation and couldn't get to class. So we wanted to make sure that we were able to still accommodate those students. And so when the pandemic hit, we had to turn everything over, of course, to online. And the most important thing for us was to get that mindset ready for virtual. First of all, virtual can be very dry, it can be boring, and you're in the comfort of your own home, whether you have pets, whether it's TV, phones, you have so many more distractions than you would in a workplace environment. And so we wanted to make sure that we created content that was engaging, that was moving, that was not static, it was not dry or rigid, it was fun, collaborative. Keeping that end user in mind, we wanted to make sure that they didn't put their camera on off and walk away and go to the store, and you never knew, because they were getting paid to be there. They were, so there was an accountability. So we had to take all of those things into consideration. How do you build in accountability? How do you build in points to incentivize certain types of activities in the program? I would show really quickly. I don't know if this is the slide, but I,
Yes.
I don't think I can share. Can I share?
Yes.
Can share.
I believe you.
So this is what we wanted to make sure also, that when people came to our modules, there were colors and there were animation and it was because the term LMS is something they've never heard before. The learning management systems, a lot of times, believe it or not, even though, some people are used to it, but at the end of the day, is it a task or is it an activity that you actually enjoy? Is it something that you're looking forward to? And so we wanted to make sure it wasn't a daunting task for our residents. So we make sure that, when you click in it, we give instructions. So like Alexia was saying, having a timeline, have an agenda, setting the expectation. They know from the gate, from start here, and then what's next. And so we keep the continuity and the consistency, because you're doing the same thing every day. But for example, you're working in groups and having to submit that weekly project or that daily project. They work on projects daily. And so, the system just allowed us to do it. We keep our images there. So we use more images and we put the text in the image for our learners. That might not be, suffice or necessary for yours. But when you're trying to attract populations that are not used to having access to rigorous information in a very, high tech world, that was just our approach to getting that done. We also use GIFs so that when they come, they're seeing that a movement. Those little things, I believe, really go a long way.
Thank you very much for showing us that. And I think that that is exactly correct, Raquel. Whenever you focus first and engaging the learner, everything will come up next, you know. I have experienced and I have seen many companies that what they do is that they upload their content and they use it as a repository and they force the learners to view it. They cannot go into the next part be, before watching the whole thing, you know. And if you force your learners, for them it's going to be boring, it's not going to be engaging. But if you consider that part, like as you are doing, you know, really attractive attractive colors, attractive images, then it will come in naturally. So everything will come after you do a building of your training and development courses, considering what the learners need and want. And that is actually what takes me into a learner-centered journey. This learner-centered journey is something that it is completely different from just a pathway. A pathway, it's something, as you Raquel was saying about how it can become cold and rigid. But if you do a learner-centered journey, then it will all flow naturally. And this learner-centered journey will also help for a virtual workforce model. It will support it. It will have that force that it needs to do all of these new steps. And a learner-centered journey, it doesn't have to be just exactly synchronous. It can be asynchronous. You can have virtual instructor-led training. And in this part, Raquel, for example, there's something that I really admire, and that is that you're offering different training models. You know, you're not just sticking with a synchronous. You have asynchronous, and I also believe that you have some free resources as well.
Mhm. So yes, we have, and the interesting part was, you guys use the term synchronous, asynchronous, and I just saw self-paced, instructor-led. And so I thought, okay, Mondays and Fridays are the days you work on the business. So those are your self-paced. We actually have and established a Roby Lab. So the name of our institution or business institution is called the Resident Owned Business Incubator. And in that incubator, we've established a lab which we can upload various courses and videos. Definitely not so much the, what do you call it? Like just resources. Resources we do keep in the resource tab. That would be like the syllabus, the calendar, well, not the calendar, but any kind of PowerPoint presentations, things to reference that classroom. They also work daily on their student assignment, so that collaborative learning. So she's not coming in, that instructor knows she's not coming in to teach in lecture style, more than she's hitting some high notes for the day, and then she's helping them apply those principles through that work group in breakout rooms using Zoom. So those have been like just a few ways that we've been able to, um, I like to say, just kind of shake it up in the classroom a little bit.
Yeah, and that's great. I mean, whenever you have asynchronous, synchronous, you have blended styles, your market is, of course, going to grow because there are people who actually, yes, they prefer to learn by reading. There are some learners like that, but you also have some other learners that need this social component. And there you have also the other part where they can have both of those two worlds, the best of both worlds. And that also takes me to the collaboration and social learning, because that is the most important part and component. And I think that this is going to be something that it is need to consider in all training programs, because collaboration learning has been something that has also helped in the productivity of a user, because they can get the answers right in that moment. You know, it's like going into the office, because that physical part has been lost. So basically, before the pandemic, you went into the office and you could ask your colleague, hey, what is the answer for this, or how can I do this? But without that, we had to move on into other tools, such as, for example, Slack. So collaboration will help you also as a learning tool. And this collaborative learning will enhance your everything, all of the topics that you were discussing about and that you were presenting. So that is something that also is a part of the learner-centered journey. And as well, we will talk a lot about adaptive and personalized learning, because it's not longer just a standardized route that they have to follow. You can also consider your needs, and also their profiles, their skills, and what is it that your staff wants to learn. And in this part, Raquel, I think that you have something really nice, and that is that you are separating your training programs. So you have more a little bit part of the theoretical part, but then you also have another course that it is the Rovi Lab, where they can put into practice this. And then you have different cohorts so that the users can go according to their needs. Can you describe this a little bit further, please?
So if I could just share really quick, I can show you better than I can tell you. Nice. Okay. And so while we have the one course, which is the actual classroom instructional design, that's the framework that, they're submitting their projects, they're uploading their assignments, they're let's see, what are they doing? So we do the Dropbox feature. They're doing a daily discussion board. They leave a progress note that kind of outlines their diary. Then we do the Roby Lab, which is somewhat sometimes the fun stuff, but this is the videos that they get to get access to. And now, whether they're working on their website, they're working on content, building out their website, they get to use all of these tools. And so, we have a self-paced video. So we put our self-paced videos in one of the modules called self-paced videos. So we kind of make it like just very intuitive, very friendly for each of the students to go into. But each student also gets a learning path. Every student is not the same. Their learning, their goals is not the same. Their business needs are not the same. And so having that assessment on the front, you get to tell them, okay, well, when you come into your lab, you do modules 2, 4, and 5. And I want you to focus in modules 2, 4, and 5. Maybe, the subject lines, the Facebook group trick or the Amazon group trick. These type of trainings, would help you scale your e-commerce business. So our lab allows us to really give a more customized approach to learning, and even a more customized approach to helping develop that entrepreneur.
Thank you very much, Raquel, for sharing that with us. And it's great that you are doing that, because basically your learners will also remain engaged, because they know that that is going to actually work for them. It is being effective. It is
Yeah.
making it effective, the learning for them, and easy, you know.
And you want to know something, Alexia? I promise you, whenever we're in the classroom, I literally have to cut them off of the Zoom because they just want to stay. And I'm thinking, I'm leaving. So I'm going to leave now and cut you guys all off. But I am amazed that they just don't want to leave the classroom. And most people think, after, and these are 4-hour classes. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, and that is exactly because you are actually making it that something that it is attractive for them. The topics are attractive, and there was I heard once that the way that the brain learns is that if the brain identifies a fact or something, a new knowledge, and it thinks that it is going to be useful, then that is what the brain will get, you know. So it's not doing about a lot of content, or like, here you have all of these different resources available. It's that you're making them like, okay, I can see that this is where you're coming from. Perhaps you're more interested in doing this approach. Okay, so then we can give you this content. So that making it adaptive and personalizing the learning, that will get your learners to say, yes, this is a concept that I will keep in my brain, that it will become something that will have a meaning for them. It's going to become meaningful learner for them.
Mhm.
And also what you were showing us, it's the modular resources, how you have it all clear so that they can know what is next. what is that they are going to not only see next, but also what are their topics of interest, right? You can say, you were saying, hey, in this one, you can choose this part, or you can choose this other part. So that is also something that it is highly valuable from what Raquel is doing. And also, and this is an important part, this is something that I always try to suggest our clients: incorporate a daily routine, because what you want is to make it intuitive. And many training programs, what they do is that they just start with the content. You need to generate interest. You need to wake your staff before you have to consider what they are doing in real life. For example, if I wake up and what I do first is that I check out my agenda, and whenever I used to arrive to the office, what I did is I went with my boss and check in with him and say, hey, are there any pending items that I can do? Then perhaps I would take some minutes to greet my colleagues and just to chat a little bit with them, 5 to 10 minutes. And that is something that that I think that you do beautifully, Raquel. Would it be possible if you show us like the part of the greeting that that you have in all of this daily routine, please?
Sure can. Let's see. Let me get and share my screen. Okay, and so I'll probably go into another week where let me go into third week. And so third week, they know every day to come look at the agenda. Um, Actually, let's go to the agenda. Mondays is self-paced, so Tuesdays is that agenda. And usually what's ever happening on Tuesday, whatever assignments have to be submitted, we put that in the Tuesday agenda. So it's like access to assignments that you will have to complete. They have to complete a rise and grind post. We call it rise and grind, but it's a good morning. It's bringing some positivity to the day, and they have to respond to each other's posts. So that's intentional. That is helping them, you know coming from out of bed and showing up intentionally, and now we're in the day. And sometimes we do have to get on students because you would not believe how they would come to class. I'm like, you don't go to work looking like that. So it's also just instituting different behaviors. This is an opportunity to get that critical thinking, that emotional intelligence I have here, public speaking, getting that confidence out as they navigate through these assignments. But when it's time for them to do their group assignment, they have to submit that. They do their progress notes. And so that continuity stays there, that encouragement, like, yay, you finished now, submit
Yeah,
your
and I think that what you're doing there, Raquel, and I really like this, is that you're activating your brain before actually getting there. Then the input, it's not just basically coming in here. This is going to be the input. No, you just come in and say good morning. You discuss with other learners, and you're making them also confident. You're making a safe environment through that. And the fact that you are having discussion posts over there saying it's kind of like what we are already doing in the office.
Mhm.
So that is something that that it is that will help you as well. So over there, you have already a discussion forum with that.
Mhm.
And thank you very much for that. Let me go ahead and go back into my screen.
Okay.
So, what is the best way to have an effective learning journey? I mean, we need to set the baselines, and the baselines are made of different items that all of the learning paths should have, so that it is sustainable. In this way, we can build sustainment, and the way to do it is to consider four main items. The first one and the most important, yes, the business goals, but also we need to add content, accessible content, and virtual instructor led training, also sessions. And we also have to offer different means of collaboration, expression, and action points. So these four items are like the most important, because what we will be doing throughout this is that we will actually be training our employees in the way that the brain learns. And why is it the business goals important? Because this will be your guidelines. These are going in this part, you will be setting your learning outcomes. Um, and how we can do that is by considering not only the knowledges, not only the technical parts, but we also need to set up and figure out what are the skills, soft skills that we want them to develop throughout the programs. And also consider the part of the organizational culture, because we need to generate their interest and passion, and we have to create a safe environment for our learners. I mean, you as a business thought leader, Raquel, why is it important and how you set up your business goals in your training and development courses?
Well, when you start, like I believe the Stephen Covey with 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, you start with the end in mind. And so for us, it was one, you're accountable to your funding and what are the deliverables that this funder is asking you to do. And based on that deliverable, and then based on the needs of our learner, you come up with the goals of how you want this platform or this content to be delivered, perform, and to produce that outcome. And so we might call it outcomes, but in the end, it's still a goal that we have to achieve.
Yeah, true, definitely. And also in those goals or learning outcomes, just make sure that you're also considering those competencies, those soft skills. It's not only the technical part, because what we are doing is that we're helping empower our employees. Our employees are not just items or robots that they need to learn something. They have that humane part, and we also need to consider those items, those soft skills, such as emotional intelligence. That is part. We also, I would say that also health and wellness is very important, um, because it's not only just independent components. I mean, whenever you develop also that part of the learner, you will have a really, you will develop a leadership skills in there. And Raquel, you mentioned once that you were doing like a wellness Wednesday. Is that correct?
Yeah, so on top of the class, because it's a long day, it's 10 to 2, that first half is that collaborative learning, that instructor led. And then after they go to lunch, they come back, we have specialties. And those specialties are either those guest speakers that were coming in, those entrepreneurs that have performance in various industries, and we practice Wellness Wednesdays. So we also took in consideration that the pandemic was affecting people in different ways. People was losing family members, matriarchs of families, patriarchs of families, and that would have definitely taken a toll on anybody trying to learn. And so incorporating a Wellness Wednesday where we have a licensed therapist, psychologist come into the classroom, and she just talks, she allows the students to talk and, break down various challenges that they might be having. It could be current events that they're trying to make sense of. But we wanted to make sure that even though entrepreneurship all by itself is, you need a therapist when you want to do business, almost someone to talk it out. We knew that in the pandemic, we had to be mindful of the mental health of our students. So we put a therapist in the middle of it to be able to help them. And actually the students love it. They, if there was no class that day, they will come back and sign on to make sure they did not miss Wellness Wednesdays.
Yeah, and that is great, because usually we don't have those spaces in many companies. It's yes, your boss will ask you, "Hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling?" Human resources might check up on you, but it's not like you have that space to do it usually. And whenever you do that, it's you're keeping your clients happy. They feel good about themselves, and they also feel motivated, because it is what you're doing is that you're training them for all of the different items that might affect that person. It's like an integral training program that what you're doing. And this is something that can always be integrated into your training and development courses. This is not something that, oh, I have already designed them this way. It's not like I cannot modify them. And yes, and this comes the part of repurposing my courses, because this is something really important that you should do. As I was saying before, it, the new workforce model is here to stay. We're going to change. And how can we adapt to this? And that is by repurposing my courses. And the way that we will do it is I will not only say what are like up to now, what are my goals as a company, but also what can I integrate considering all of these different factors. Consider their health and wellness. Consider also the soft skills that they need to develop. And as a company, of course, you need to now adapt to the new model. Ask your leaders, what is it going to be the new workforce model from now on? Are we going to go back to complete workspace? Are we going to do a hybrid? Are we going to do complete remote working? And all of these items, you can go back into your courses and say, okay, so perhaps we're for training and development, we're going to do it now completely remote. So how can I repurpose my course based on this? What other skills should I consider? Because now we're not going to, I'm not going to train them face to face. So what are those items that I can consider now? Can I integrate perhaps a new health and wellness uh, program in this, or at least some mindfulness programs as well, courses? Because it's not actually just that you have to hire someone, but you can also reuse content that there's already out there. There are so many resources for mindfulness, emotional intelligence, healthcare programs as well. And also keep in mind that your learning paths can also be transformed considering skilling levels. Don't worry about just pushing all of the information out there in just in one time. You can also do different learning paths according to skilling levels. It doesn't have to be ASAP everything. It can also be learned in time. And that takes me into our next slide that we have over here. So here what we have is a screenshot of Can I Leaves programs, and this was something that you were mentioning before, Raquel, how you have all of this built out sustainable in a way that it is engaging, but you're also considering different elements. And I will go on into the next one because this is real important, the content. You need to make it engaging. This is the second basis. The second basis, it's engaging learning materials. We as the brain, the way that the brain learns is that we need to get them intrigued. We are curious by nature, so we need to have content in there available so that anytime that a learner wants to read more about it, it is going to be there. So it can be accessible. And for example, in Matrix, what we also do is that you can tag your resources. So tagging will also allow your users to have a quick access to that specific information and to do it in a modular way. I have seen and I have faced many companies that what they do is that they upload all of the resources under one module, and they have up to 40 different sections, and then they come the assessments. No, try to break those into other different modules. It's not only a repository, the LMS. Um, However, it can have additional resources as libraries, and you can also create knowledge banks that might be available for them. And also, you can do this with a portfolio. You can also do the knowledge bank through a wiki page. And keep in mind that you have so many different types of resources. It's not only PowerPoints, PDFs, you have also diagrams, and those are for the visual learners. Not all learners learn the same ways, and we were talking about how you have to consider different learning styles. and use audios, videos, and also informal learning. I mean, talks, podcasts, community forums, do animation, and also employee generated resources. And in here, what I really like the most about what you are doing, Raquel, and if you would be kind enough to tell us about the experience of having guest speakers.
Yeah, so usually what we'll do to break it up, because it's 4 hours again, and that instructor is coming in, just drilling into main concepts. That guest speaker comes on and they have their Q&A session. And so we try to make sure that residents or our students are engaging in the content going back and forth. So you're making sure that that the chat features and the mics and all of those things are enabled, so that that dialogue and discussion can go back and forth between that guest speaker, who's a new person adding a new perspective to something that has been learned all this time. And also surveys. So sometimes it will put our survey link in the chat. If you really like this speaker, give them 4 or 5 stars. And that content that helps us determine what speakers do well, what content do the students resonate with better. By having even the polling feature, of course, in Zoom, you can use the polling feature to do that too. So we're always just trying to, anything we can pull out to help engage, build teams, you know, that's what we really like to do. Build like teamwork assignments. It could be anything from, depending on the temperature, depending on what's happening in the world. That's another thing I wanted to add, is you cannot take this instrument and separate it from the context of real life. Blend in real life. You see what's happening out there in our economies, in the United States or abroad, in your country. Bring that into the classroom, if you because they're living that life anyway, and you don't want that to be a distraction to them while they're in the classroom. So finding ways, if it's a team project that says, if you had to solve the economy, or I want this team to work together to talk about the stimulus packet, would that have been something you would have done? If not, where would your priorities have been? And they'll be in there all day long trying to work those problems out. And so it's just, I think at this point we can't think that just putting that information out there is just okay. It's how you put that information out there that really makes a difference.
Exactly. Yeah. And I definitely agree with you on this because we have so many tools, we have so many information that what matters really is what you are going to do with it, how you are going to utilize it, how you are going to make it your knowledge, and it is considering many different items that we have. I love the idea, especially about this guest speakers, because as you were saying, that gives them a more wider ideas, strategies that they can apply. It's not only that this is what you have to learn, but you can hear to many different users um, sharing their experiences, and that is also informal learning. I mean, you can it's not only that you have to invite guest speakers, but you can also utilize, for example, the TED Talks, podcasts. There are so many things out there now.
Case studies too. One of the things I've learned, case studies. This Our students love case studies. Bringing case studies in and bringing people around that to help triage and provide troubleshooting on that. That's a huge booster for just it boosts engagement.
That's great. That's a great suggestion. So perhaps you could utilize use cases as well. You can look for. I'm sure that there's many use cases that you can utilize in
Absolutely.
your. And also now, the good thing about having all of these tools is that it is out there. That we have many information, many opportunities of creating knowledge moments. But now the other thing is that. Uh, we don't have to go all the other way into the extreme. into having all of those content, a lot of information to overwhelm the learners, you know. There is something that a dear friend of mine has always told me, you know, the last thing that you say is the last thing that usually people keep with them, you know. So you don't have to go into that extreme and say, hey, here's all of this information. Here you have 20 pages of PDFs. The attention span of people is getting shorter and shorter, so we have to curate our content. We really need to focus on what is important for them to learn, what is it that the concept that we need them to get. And whenever they already got that concept, trust me that they will you will generate interest for them to then go into additional resources. I mean, curating your content is not making it poorer, is making it effective and efficient. Always quality over quantity, as a dear friend of mine has always told us, you know. Just make sure that your content is good, it is intriguing, and always keep on sending short and energizing messages and notifications to your users. I mean, in this part, Raquel, I think that what you are doing is that you're also giving them additional resources. Is So if it be possible, it'd be great if you could show us what you have, please.
Sure. So in our resource tab here, I'll click on resource. We put the PowerPoints. We have, of course, our workbook, our ebook. They have their student activities. And usually, basically, the activities are, you know, it aligns with the curriculum itself, of course. But then each student is actually, I'm not going to say each student, but the groups of the students, they're familiar with the various types of projects that they are, you know, required to work on, and they have to actually submit. And so let's see if I did this one. Okay, where else? Let's see. Other resources include, it won't open the full thing. Our marketing toolkit, that's another thing we do. So that we set the expectation and the tone up front. We put our syllabus in there. Our admissions policies, we put that in there as well. The marketing toolkit does allow us to use the gamification feature because they can earn various points for their website. So they earn their website, they earn high-res photos, they earn these things. And so when we're in these classes, every time they submit a post, every time they submit an activity, they earn the points. And those points, we just go into our system to see who's winning the, you know, how many points that each student has. And so we can quickly qualify them for their marketing toolkit. And so that stuff is readily available for them whenever they need to access it based on where we are in the curriculum. And so, you know, these have been very helpful in just helping our students to quickly access key reminders, rules, terms and conditions, etc.
Thank you, Raquel. And yes, as you might have noticed, it is not part of the path itself. It
Right.
is something that learners can go to if they want to or if they need to. So she keeps the content right on the focus on the most important concepts. And if learners want more or need more, they can find it on the resources area. And that takes me as well to some suggestions on how you can adapt your content. Start by curating your content with the main concepts. What are the main concepts that I want learners to learn about this? Then all of the other items, you can add it into additional resources. Tag your content and make it available in the resources area, in other folders that you might have. Also, think about how you can aim to different learning styles. Perhaps I will use in this one a little bit more visual. This is going to be an audio. This is going to be a video. And also, if you can make it interactive, make it also interactive as well. And that takes me also to the step number 3, which is having multiple means of collaboration and expression. This is so important, and that is to create a safe environment so that learners can express themselves. We need to recognize what they are learning as well. How are they are making that knowledge of their own, how they're making it their own strategies. And also you can utilize self-generated resources that they have created, give them feedback, answers, but allow them to react, allow them to participate. We have to keep them active. And that also takes me to Mark Richie's question. He's asking, how about effectively evaluating a virtual training, the Kirkpatrick Level 3? What are your recommendations? Keep them active. Keep them active. Keep them reacting to all of your of all the content, of all of the projects that they are doing. And Raquel, you're an expert on keeping your learners active and as well reactive.
Yes. And I think that goes into the second question when they're asking, they want some suggestions on virtual team building exercises or activities and platforms, as well as online business social activities and platforms. So I mean, I think it's just again being really creative. First of all, understanding who your students are. Who are they? Are you training your employees? If so, is it a department? And even in the department, they're still human beings. Who are they? What are they interested in? And what is going on in your world or in your community, in your city, in your state? How can you tie in real life things? And what do they have in common? And be able to work key concepts that are relative to the department's goals, the business goals, organizational goals into those activities. I don't think it's not, I think the more, because we're so smart, all you guys are like super duper smart. And sometimes we make things more complicated than it is. Learning should be fun. And just go back to the times where you learned the best. Sometimes it's through laughter. Bring in a comedian and, someone that is, can make people laugh. Laughter can increase learning. And so joy increases learning. People don't learn when they're bored. And so just relaxing a little bit, trust me, if I am not this, but I am this. Now that I know that I'm like this, I'm going to like tell everybody I'm this. And so, but I'm saying that I just took something so simple because I was just so concerned about that end user, that student, that learner. And I wanted to make sure at the end of the day, they receive that. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, true. That is exactly correct. And it is exactly like we're saying that we have learning variability. So whenever you are designing your programs, consider the part of the user, the part of your learner. How are they? How are you allowing them to react? Are you allowing them to have fun in here? How can you allow them as well to practice all of this? Be creative, as Raquel is saying. Be creative whenever you are building out your courses. It doesn't mean that being creative is going to take away that effectiveness of learning. That it is something that it is completely separate from the business learning outcomes. Because no, it is going in the same direction. So it's just aligning to the company, but what we're doing is aligning all of the other factors that affect the way people learn. So we have so many suggestions in here. So for example, integrate a different type of assessment one at a time. Don't go all there and just add it into there. Perhaps change some of the assessments that you already have. If all of them are drop boxes or that they have to submit something, perhaps you can do it with a discussion or with a debate, but also make it fun for yourselves. It's not only about making it fun for them, but also for you as instructional designers. I mean, we have so many tools out there, so many knowledges as professional education professionals that we can bring it into all of these training and development programs. So I think that we have run out of time. We thank you so very much for joining us today. We will share all of these PowerPoint slides and as well all of the suggestions and ideas so that we can hope that it helps in your training and development programs. Thank you so very much, Raquel, for joining me today. You have so many great insights. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you guys.